The Sacramento housing market finally feels like it's hitting a tipping point. Buyers are getting back into the game, looking for homes. Sellers are finally starting to adjust, and interest rates, well, they haven't changed all that much. Now, while there is already a huge change in the real estate market just since the beginning of this year, there's a lot going on. So today in this video, I'm going to unpack all of this and show you exactly what you need to know if you're thinking about buying or selling this spring of 2025. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam Golovey, your real estate pro here in the Sacramento area. In this video, I'm going to cover really a broad range of topics. So whether you're a homeowner that's considering selling, or maybe a first-time home buyer, maybe even an investor that's considering the Sacramento area, this is truly going to have a little bit for everyone. First, I'm going to cover the sentiment in the current market and kind of what's going on. Then I'm going to bring in some outside sources just to hear other people's opinions and thoughts. And third, I'm actually going to go into some deep dive stats and data for the Sacramento market. So for those of my friends that are a little bit more analytical, you're going to enjoy that portion. All right, so let's get into the actual overall feel of the market. Now, when it comes to sellers, there's really a few different types of sellers in the market right now. Some sellers are pricing right, and they're kind of leaning on their agents or professional advice on how to go into that pricing strategy. Now, you've heard me say before, this is not the same real estate market that it was in 2021, early 2022. We're in a whole different game. So if you're looking at a lot of the older prices that may have sold in your neighborhood just overnight, it is just not the same feel in the market, and it hasn't been for pushing 2 years now. And with listings right now, we're really seeing two types of sellers. Some are still holding on to those old prices, and they're basically overpricing their homes, or maybe saw some really old comparable sales in the area, and they're kind of going for that high dollar. And those homes that are doing that are actually just kind of sitting on the market and taking a lot longer to sell. Others are kind of realizing the change in the real estate market, or maybe they have a good agent in their corner or whoever they're working with, and at the same time, they're realizing that they may need to price a little bit more competitive, maybe even offer some concessions or seller credits to the buyer to help them out with closing costs, or maybe something like a interest rate buy down. Things like this are working really well in the real estate market, and it's basically incentivizing and helping home buyers get into that home. So the sellers or the homeowners that are taking this into consideration are still definitely selling and not just getting stuck with their home. In this situation, I'd say price, condition, and location are three huge things that still sell a property in any market, and that is definitely working right now. Now, if you've been watching the real estate market at all, you may see homes come up on the market, and some are taking forever to sell, while others seem like they're just flying off the shelf. And this is true. In some neighborhoods, you can see one home get under contract within the first week, maybe even the first couple days, with multiple offers if it's really a prime location. Now, on that same token, a house could come up down the street or in the neighborhood over and not get nearly the amount of attention and attraction, taking it longer to sell. So I want to get into actually of what's hot and what's not. I will say new builds in good locations are still in high demand. So in areas where there's new builds going on, or some of these builders are offering some really good pricing, incentives, or lower interest rates, we're still seeing a lot of deals getting done. But more than that, let's say the builder is not offering as many good incentives or price cuts out there, but it's in a really prime location. Maybe the builder bought this plot of land where there's just not a lot of construction going on, and maybe it's surrounded by older established homes, but there's just not a lot of inventory. Well, I still see a lot of those homes selling quickly if they're in a prime location. Now, another hot item that's still selling is going to be luxury homes. And the luxury market, I would consider we're about $1 million and over on price point. Now, this is going to be highly relative to the area and location, but strong, desirable areas, for instance, like Granite Bay, El Dorado Hills. If the home is in one of these areas that's highly desirable and suggests higher price points like that, we've still seen a lot of those homes sell, and buyers aren't as reliant on interest rates in those price points. They're more looking to get into areas where they want to settle down, have their families, and have those homes typically for the long haul, and sometimes even with really strong down payments. The other hot thing is going to be well-priced homes in resale areas. Now, this is for pricing all across the board, whether you're looking at entry-level real estate market or the luxury market. If a home is priced well in this real estate market, there's still plenty of buyers looking. So if, again, like I said, if you're in a good location, it's priced right, and the condition is good, it's probably going to sell. Now, on this note, if it is priced priced right and it is in a good location, it's got a good condition, sometimes you can expect it to also get into a multiple offer situation. Now we are kind of getting back into that market. I would say spring started a little bit early this year. And I've even had a couple buyers where they went out and they were shopping at resale homes that maybe they thought there might be an offer or two, ended up with 3, 5, or more offers. Now that's not as common, but it does happen. So if you're a buyer out there, make sure to lean on your agent or the professional that you're working with to really make sure that you're not getting worked into a situation where you think there's a lot of offers, but there really isn't. Now, on the other side of that, there's a lot of stuff that's also not moving, and you'll see that kind of in our data points later in this video, but overpriced listings are just sitting, especially if the homeowner does not do a price reduction in time or takes too long. It's very common to see, and I've seen this over and over in the real estate market, if there's a home that's overpriced and it's been on the market for, let's say, about a month, and they haven't really done anything about it to adjust, whether it's the marketing, the condition of the home, the pure presentation of the property, or really just a simple price cut to incentivize buyers, well, after that 30-day mark or so, people really start considering, is there something wrong with that house? And the interest truly starts diminishing. So I'd say the homeowners or sellers that are ahead of the curve and doing these price adjustments early on are still winning and getting the property sold. The ones that aren't could see their homes on the market for 100 days or more. On that note as well, I would say condos are not doing as well. And I think it's just also part of the HOA. I've had a lot of clients that are looking for condos or townhomes, but maybe the HOA fees are a little too high, or they're in areas where they're a little bit older and just not as well maintained as they used to be. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some really nice units out there, but I have seen it kind of slow down in that market overall. So there's really a few different things going on with the real estate market. Some stuff, it's really hot, it's really selling, and it's moving fast paced, while others, it's just kind of taking a lot longer to sell, or maybe it's just overpriced and people aren't as interested. So it's definitely an interesting mix going on in the current real estate market. Now, I wanted to bring in this example of another source, the Sac Appraisal blog, and he had a very interesting take on what the temperature is of the real estate market right now. And he says, the housing market is like a hot pocket taken out of the microwave too early. The temperature is not the same for every property type. And I have to say, I totally agree with this analogy. Some areas, it just seems like everything is flying off the shelf. It's super hot, things are moving quick, and it's got a lot of demand, while other areas are still kind of frozen or maybe even a little bit warm. There's just these hot zones in Sacramento that people want to be in, and the market is going to move regardless in those areas. Now, another point I wanted to bring up from this blog is actually when he talks about the competition or buyers that are going to be looking out in the real estate market and how they can prepare. And he says, it's easy to hear a word like flat and think there is no competition, but let me clarify. Overpriced units are sitting, but the good stuff definitely has competition. These days, buyers are very picky about price, location, and condition, as I said before. So when a well-priced home in good condition hits the market, there could be multiple offers, yet there are plenty of pendings that only get one offer too. So the dynamic isn't the same in every escrow. Now, one of the interesting points he goes on later to say is that 31% of the homes that went under contract in February were under contract within the first week. And 27% of the homes sat for over 100 days before getting into contract. And this is most likely because they actually did a price drop. So like he said, the good stuff still has competition, while overpriced or poorly marketed homes are definitely sitting longer. And a point to you guys out there, maybe some of you home buyers that are looking on the market, if you see a property that's been on for over 2, 3, or more months, and you really like the property, you think it may work for you, but it's slightly on the higher side or overpriced, I would say definitely to take a look at that one, or maybe even give it a try. You'd be surprised of how many homeowners end up actually giving some sort of incentive when there's a buyer who's interested in their home. All right, so let's get into the fun stuff and show you actually what's been going on over the last year in the Sacramento real estate market. Now, when I'm going to be using these data points, I'm going to be pulling in the local counties combined together. So we're talking about Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado County, and Yolo County. And we're going to refer to this as the Sacramento region as a whole. Now, we've actually seen inventory pick up this last month, and the amount of homes for sale was 2,896. That's good news because it's up about 13.7% more than the previous month. So we're starting to see a healthy healthy addition of new homes hitting the market. Now, this is a natural trend that we see every year going into spring. So I believe that in April, May, June, we are going to see a continuation of more listings compounding and hitting the market as we've seen in years past. One interesting thing here is that it's also 55% more homes on the market than it was exactly last February in 2024. So as you can see, there's a big jump just in the amount of options of homes you can choose from now versus a year ago. Now, this is an early shift and a good sign for a strong spring market this year because homeowners or sellers are starting to get a little bit more comfortable and more of their homes are going to be coming onto the market. Maybe they are getting a little bit more comfortable to now sell and buy something else. Now, continuing the conversation with inventory or amount of homes for sale, we had about 2.5 months of inventory this last month. And as you can see on the graph, it's a big uptick in the choices for home buyers. We're finally starting to see signs of inventory catching up to the market demand. Now, the amount of homes that actually sold this last month was 1,155, and that's up about 5% versus the previous month. Now, the homes that went pending was 1,459, which is also showing an increase of about 12.8% versus the previous month. So just from January to February, I think we're already starting to see a pretty strong uptick in the amount of homes hitting the market, getting under contract, or even getting sold. Now that we've actually kind of seen what's going on with the activity, let's see what's going on with actual real estate prices. Now, I know a lot of people over the last year or two have been talking about real estate prices going down and things looking really bad. While there is kind of some truth to both sides, they've been going up in certain areas and kind of down in others. I think you're going to be surprised of what stats you're going to see next. So the median sold price came in at about $595,000 this last month. That's showing just a modest 3.5% increase compared to exactly 1 year ago. Now, the average sold price, which is that red line on the graph, came in at $658,000. And that's also up an even more modest 1.7% versus 1 year ago. Now, if you pay attention to the graph, you can see kind of prices kind of did this, went up, kind of down, leveled off, and kind of go up and down month over month. And this is very normal to see. But as you can see, the pricing hasn't necessarily just went up like crazy, nor has it really dropped off like a lot of people were saying. And the average price per square foot came in about $343, which is up about 2.7%. Now, just by looking at these graphs and looking at these numbers, yes, the prices have ticked up a little bit, but month over month, they go up and down. So overall, I'd say it's been very modest growth, if almost a little bit flat, as we were talking about earlier in this video. All right, so the next thing we're gonna get into is gonna be average days on the market. Now, this is important, especially if you're a homeowner, seller. This is gonna give you a realistic expectation of how long it will take to get your home under contract. And also as a home buyer, this is also an important number because you kind of want to know how quickly things are moving. The average days on the market came in at about 42 this last month. Now, this number, you do have to be a little bit careful. As I mentioned earlier in the video, some homes can get under contract in the first week and others could be taking 90 or 100 days or more. So you kind of have the average of those two. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this video, some homes are still super hot, can take a week or less to sell, and others could be taking a few months to get under contract. So this is going to be like your general average, and this could definitely change from neighborhood to neighborhood. All right, so now that I've given you an information overload, let me share my closing thoughts. If you're thinking about buying or selling this year and maybe a little bit nervous about the market, here's what I can tell you. There's really no perfect time to buy or sell a home. I've been in this business for quite some time now, and I rarely hear that it was the absolute best time to ever buy or sell a home. But I will say that I do often hear that it was a great decision that they made. You just have to remember that real estate is truly the long-term game. And if you're gonna be buying a home for the long term, you will always do well. Look at the statistics over the last 100 years. Real estate has proven to be a solid investment regardless of the different bumps in the road. And this year, spring is coming early. We truly have had a strong uptick in the real estate market even before the official spring has started. So I do believe that we're gonna have a strong season in spring well into the summer. Now, I've actually stated this even on my previous video that I did a few months ago about the Sacramento real estate market, and I will say that it's shaping out to be that way. The other part of this is the interest rates. Now, even though the interest rates haven't adjusted as much as we wanted to, they have come down a little bit. Right now, as of the time of this video, we're gonna be hovering in the 6% more or less. But here's what I can say about the interest rates, that even though they've been a little bit higher over the last 2 years, a lot of our clientele, regardless if they're buyers or sellers that are considering moving, are almost getting accustomed to the new higher rates, and in a way it's becoming a new normal, if you will. Now I know it doesn't make it more affordable or any more enjoyable, I get that. But at the same time, people are kind of looking at it and they're like, well, how much longer am I going to wait for these to come down for me to make my move? So that is something that I'm seeing. I think that's going to be kind of happening more of this year, that the homeowners that were sitting on their homes waiting for rates to drop are kind of just going to get into the market this year, maybe even next. And same thing with the home buyers. So I'm personally experiencing that with my clientele, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Are you kind of considering that this is the new normal with interest rates, and is it going to make you kind of go for it, or are you going to keep waiting for those rates to come down? Now, on that same note, I do want to share that I find that if interest rates do hit that 6% or lower mark, we're going to see even more pickup in the real estate market. In fact, there was actually a study done when new construction builders were trying to find out what's that magic number, what's that magic interest rate number that's going to get buyers to actually buy a home from them. And they found out that on average, it's going to be about a 5.8% interest rate. So just under 6%. So if we ever do see those rates get to that 6% or lower mark, I do think that we're going to have even more homeowners and sellers get back into the market, bringing up transactions and activity. So that's just some food for thought. I do think that right now it's still not going to be too competitive, depending where you want to buy, and it might be a good time to take advantage while others are not. And if you're ever thinking about buying or selling in the Sacramento area, I'd love to connect. My name is Sam Golovey, and I'd love to be your go-to real estate resource here in Sacramento. Feel free to reach out anytime. Our info is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and here's to an incredible 2025.